Hi, you're listening to The Humans We Are with Carola, episode number 12. Oh, my lovely humans. I hope you're doing amazing this week. I wanted to share a little story with you. I went to therapy for many years. I went on and off for about 8 years, and it was very helpful for me. I learned so much about myself. I learned to acknowledge when I was too rigid at work or with my partner. It helped me become much more self-aware than I had ever been in my whole life. But at one point, that whole process of getting to know me and in a way taking responsibility for how I was being in my own life and how I was being an obstacle sometimes, it stopped being helpful. See, with the help of my therapist, I started realizing that I had very rigid ideas about how things and people and the world should be. Like, for example, the right way to be a boss, the right way to be a spouse or in a relationship with another human, the right way to be a mom. I wasn't a mom yet back then, but I had very specific ideas of what a good mom does and doesn't do, and I measured my mom with those ideas. In most areas of my life, I had an idea of what I thought was the right way to be or the right things to do in all of those roles. So, for example, at work, I was of the opinion that a good boss will always mentor their employees and will always take responsibility as a leader for any mistakes someone in the team would make. Like, they would never throw a team member under the bus. They will always take ownership and responsibility for their team. That belief served me well. It helped me show up as the boss that I wanted to be. But when my boss didn't live up to my definition, I would think of them as not a good boss. And that wasn't helpful. In my relationship with my husband, for example, I used to think that if he cared about me, and if he respected me, he would do or not do certain things, especially if I had asked him to. For example, I would ask him to take out the trash, or maybe to not leave the toilet seat up, or a wet towel on the bathroom floor. And if he didn't honor my request, and in the timing and in the way that I expected, I would interpret that. I would jump to the conclusion that he didn't love me, he didn't care about me, he didn't respect me. In my relationship with my mom, that's another example. I had very specific ideas, as I said before, of what a good mom did and didn't do. So a good mom listens and supports her child. A good mom doesn't minimize her child's fears. A good mom comforts her child in a very specific way and doesn't criticize or say mean things to the child. And you can imagine the pain that I suffered with when my mom didn't act according to my manual for a good mom. So while I was in therapy and I started getting to know myself better, and I started learning about what I liked, what I disliked, how I thought about myself and the world, how things and how everyone should be. And all of that felt really good. It felt good to know more about me, to feel like I was understanding myself better and getting to know who I really was and how I really was. At the same time, I was experiencing a ton of pain because of the gap between how I thought of the world and the people around me and the reality that I was encountering. And I was also starting to become more aware of what was really the source of the pain was not the people or the world out there, but my expectations. So it was a step forward for me in the direction of understanding why I was in pain in certain situations, but it wasn't easing the pain. So I went from being in pain because my boss wasn't a good boss, my husband didn't care about my requests, and life hadn't given me the mom that I wanted and deserved. That was what I thought before. But then I went from there to being in pain because I had high expectations for my boss. I wanted my husband to care about me in the way that I wanted him to, and I wanted my mom to love me the way that I needed to be loved. It felt a little more empowering because I realized that I was creating that painful gap between reality and my expectations, but it also felt like a dead end to me. In some ways, it felt even worse because now, with all the growing self awareness, I was seeing that the way I thought, the way I was, the expectations I had was creating the pain I was feeling when other people were being themselves and not conforming to my rules or my expectations. But the thought that was really blocking me and creating pain all along was this: it's obvious that, or obviously, if my husband cared, he would do what I requested. Obviously, a good mom would never say mean things or criticize her daughter. Obviously, a good boss would never throw a team member under the bus and would take responsibility for the whole team. It's obvious that, followed by my own thought, my own opinion about things and people. It felt righteous, and it also felt very painful. I really felt like there was no way out of it, that the key to happiness was learning to accept the gap. That didn't feel good. It felt like defeat. And luckily, I don't remember exactly where it came from or when exactly it clicked for me, but the one domino that felt and made the biggest change for me was realizing that those thoughts that I felt were so obvious and common sense, and that almost like everyone in their right mind would agree with me, those thoughts weren't facts. And they also weren't unchangeable for me. For some reason, I thought that the way I thought about me, I thought about others and about the world was set. It was like a part of my essence, of my personality. Kind of like the cards that had been dealt to me and that I couldn't change them. But when I realized that all of that was optional, when I figured out that I could decide if I wanted to believe something or if I wanted to stop believing it, and I could even start believing something new, that changed the course of my whole life. I started challenging everything. I got especially curious when the word obviously showed up. And also when, because of thinking that something was obvious, I was experiencing pain. So I started really considering and really trying to answer the questions from a blank slate. What is a good boss? Why? What does being a good spouse really mean? What is being a good mom? Why? Where did I get my current beliefs from? Where did they come from? Does what I believe now serve me? What I believe currently, does it allow me to keep growing? Or would I need to change what I believe now if I want to keep growing? Because sometimes what I believed had served me to get where I was, but it wouldn't support my next level of growth. So those thoughts and ideas that we have as adults now, like when you notice you're human now, she has some beliefs and thoughts about herself, about others, about the world, about how things are. Those thoughts and those beliefs are not really yours, in the sense that you weren't born with them. Like your human was born without any preconceived beliefs. But we, or she, unconsciously adopted them along the way. And the main reason that she did that she adopted the beliefs, is because at that point they served her. They served the human that you were at that point. But you can always, and I think you should, help your human challenge the beliefs she has now from the perspective of where you want to be now and where you want to go. If your thoughts now are not serving you anymore, you will know, because you will notice suffering or they will hold you back. For example, now that I am a mom, I've noticed the thought that if I was a good mom, my kids would be happy, content, and well behaved. So when they are not, when they are like, normal kids, I notice that a part of me wants to make that mean that I am not a good mom, and that creates suffering. So that is my cue. Is that expectation really true? Does it serve me? What do I want to believe on purpose? How would I define what kind of a mom I want to be now? So I want to ask you, and I want to invite you to notice, when your human is suffering, can you get curious and notice what thoughts, what beliefs about her, about other people, about the world? What are those thoughts that are creating the gap with reality? As humans, we are not explicitly or intentionally taught how to think of ourselves in a way that is productive, helpful, self-affirming. We now have the opportunity to teach ourselves, to choose how to think about ourselves in a way that is productive, that is supportive, loving, and kind, in a way that propels us to the life we want, instead of keeping us anchored to the way that we have been. And if you want to do this work of uncovering the unhelpful, the unconscious programming that is blocking you from having the fulfilling, happy, prolific life you know you're meant for, I have openings for one-on-one coaching at this time. So just reach out to carolafuertes@gmail.com, or you can also go to my bio on Instagram @fuertescarola and schedule a conversation to explore one-on-one coaching. I'd love to talk and answer all your questions and help you decide if this is maybe the missing piece that you've been looking for. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad you found your way to this podcast. My mission here is to help you navigate this life as a human through helping you create your own instruction manual for the human you're being in this lifetime. Please help me reach more people. I know it can be annoying to hear me say it every time, but I won't stop. There are two main ways in which you can help me, and those cost you zero money. It just costs you a few minutes of your time. So one is share this episode with one human you love and will benefit from it. And the second is go to Apple or Spotify where you hear this podcast and leave a rating and an honest review. I truly appreciate those of you who have done it already. Okay, that's all for now. I will be back next week. And in the meantime, notice the thoughts that your human may think is just who she is and what she thinks. And if believing them creates suffering, help her challenge them and change them. You are the best person to help her. That's all, my lovely humans. Bye bye.